Howdy, howdy, FrostyFire10 here, and welcome to Elden Ring Night Rain, and we got the DLC. So this is a little bit of a review. So if you haven't checked it out yet, okay, let's not check that out. Um, Honestly, I think it's nice. The new map is definitely a bit to learn. It does feel it's much more vertical than a lot more vertical than the other map. The normal map, which has changed a bit over time. So it's one of those things where I hadn't played in a while. So the normal map still, it feels like it is different in terms of there's the poison, rot, and the ice versions of one area where you go underground. It's just different debuffs, which is nice. And then some of the variations. I think I had seen all the other stuff before, the limited time events and things like that, but I mean limited times is in different effects, like the rot forest and the big castle and all that sort of stuff. But the underground area has big crystals everywhere that you have to shatter, and it's a bit of a nightmare to navigate through on your first run. It's one of those things that can be a bit frustrating, honestly. And I can see why there'd be some sort of ooh about it. And the other thing is, okay, I'll show you you have two new bosses. One of them is like a multi-boss, and when you do it, you specifically load on the new map. When you do the balances, you load on the new map, and you get to explore it. And well, you don't really get to explore it because the ticking clock, closing circle. It does feel like you're always under pressure to keep moving, and it's so easy to get lost in the new map and put yourself in a bad spot where you can't actually navigate where you need to do, because there's a big dead zone that opens up once you crack crystals around the map that gives you a buff. But because it's there and you can't really traverse across it freely at times until it's opened up, then it can feel like you have so many dead ends. So it's definitely one of those things where you need to be mindful of so many different elements, as well as where your churches are for your flasks, and where all your various things are. And it can be a bit overwhelming. And hopefully you have a good squad who has someone in charge who knows where they're going, because you have someone in charge who doesn't know where they're going, and you're going to jump off to your death. And there is, places where you fall and you just die, and it's like you spawn nearby and you can grab your souls again, but it can be a little bit frustrating. And as for the difficulty of the balances in the first boss of the DLC, not bad. Some of the the new mid bosses, Artorias in particular, can be challenging. It all depends on your squad combination. So what characters they're running and how well they play, of course. Because if you have someone who's really good in their role and they know what they're doing, and other people who complement them, you'll have no issues. But if you have people who are a little disjointed, the combination isn't good, they didn't get the stuff they needed, or they have smithing stone, some of smithing stone, and then they haven't had time to get to an upgrade, to a merchant, and get to an anvil and get an upgrade. So it is, you still have that variation of the online cooperative experience. I'd say there's more variation there than there is necessarily with the roguelike changing world experience. It is much more about who you're playing with and how they change and what they do and their plans and how you mix with them. That's where so much of the variation of Elden Ring Night Rain comes from. It's just how you play with others, or how they play with you, and not in a weird way. And so again, if you have a group of friends, it's a totally different experience. But if you're playing with randoms like I do, maybe you'll struggle. Particularly for me, I struggled with the Dredgelord. Yeah, I really struggled. Really bad. And I was just trying to get a good combination, because one of the things I would do is deal a lot of damage, particularly in the second phase. There's always a second phase. And then draw the attention, and you need to be able to deal with that. So it's just about everyone sort of kiting the boss as much as possible, doing damage, but then giving each other a chance to have a breather, so that they're not always pressured and then knocked down, and just being able to dodge. So it's not like, Remnant 2, I think is a great example. Like some of the bosses there, particularly the final boss there, is like one of the hardest bosses. But until you know the dance, and then once you know the dance, it's pretty damn cool. But you just need to learn. You just need to learn the moves. And it just takes a bit of time, unless you get a really, really good player in your group, or two good players, and you're serviceable enough, stay alive, and you'll be right. Because the worst thing you can do is always go down, and then someone else tries to res you, and they get knocked down when they're resing you because they're not looking at the boss. The same old, same old. But as for what quality, I think balances are okay. A Dreadlord is a tough fight. I think it's a worthwhile addition to the game. Obviously, there'll be Everdark Sovereign versions of them. Maybe, I would assume, at some point. Surely, at some point there will be. I don't envy those jumping into Dreadlord Everdark Sovereign. That's going to be tough. Like, really, really tough. But, I did get the full version of the game when I bought it. So I didn't pay an extra $15 or whatever, $20 or whatever it is to buy the DLC. At this point, I already put that money in. So I backed in FromSoft and their capabilities. And I'll show you how long I've played. So let's go to quit. So I'm at 60 hours in total in Elden Ring NIGHTREIGN. And so I added about another maybe 16, 17 hours with the DLC. So that's kind of in the range. And that I took a bit way too long with Dreadlord. So if you fly through Dreadlord, you get a good group. Maybe you get it done in like 5-10 hours. And then maybe you'll feel like you're a bit underwhelmed. But that variation is what it's all about. So you get a couple of new, the new classes. So let's talk about the new classes. So we have the Undertaker here. So I don't want to run through everything because I want you to, have that sort of... She can fly around and stuff. Okay, where's my... Ugh. Starts with a hammer. Has a dodge ability. What can I... Oh, gosh. For God's sakes. Ah, we're going to do the... Okay. And then we do... And it allows other players around to repeat their ultimate as well. So if you have multiple Undertakers, they can just go spam and charging and doing big damage. And it's interesting. The passive is if you do bleed, you build you get a little shield to get a bubble. And so it's just good to build bleed. And big weapons, obviously. Oh, we could look at the different screens. One of the combinations I'm running, I'm just running some basic stuff. So, increase health and sharing. This one's just a very nice sort of team-friendly one. Honestly, I haven't played too much of the Undertaker. I prefer the Scholar. Honestly, I think the Scholar is really interesting. So the Scholar is a straight sword and has interesting abilities. So we have Analysis. Oh yeah, we got a normal attack. So we analyze things. And you can yep. And link them all together. It makes a lot more sense on actual mobs. But it's interesting, and you can get a relic for it where you get extra runes, so you can... And you can snatch runes with only a small scan. So it's actually got some utility, it does some interesting stuff, and it does boost damage when you full scale and things like that. But the more important thing is this one. The ultimate, I think, is where it's at. The bee's knees is the ultimate. I have the relic where you do little continuous damage while the ultimate's active, which is really nice. It's just one of those things that in a boss fight, extra chip damage is always good. And also, it shares damage, and it buffs all your people, like keeps everyone alive, because you're always getting your health up, because you're always sharing, and it's just generally a good ultimate, a good team one. And if 3 scholars are in the squad, then it actually is a really good sign. I've enjoyed both. Undertaker I haven't played nearly as much, but I do have, play my main classes, so I do generally prefer to stick with my main ones. I've been using Guardian, Eye, and that's my mains really. So, but I did win the Major Fighters Scholar, so that was good stuff. In a good squad. We had legendary weapons and things, but we actually just played well. Which I'd done that fight so many times, the Dreadlord boss fight, and just that second phase. We just get to a point where we just didn't do any damage, which was sort of a struggle. But conquered eventually. Victory in the end. Satisfying as ever? Yeah. Am I looking forward to new DLC? Maybe. Do I recommend it if you got your 40 hours out of Elden Ring Night Reign? Do you want to come back in another maybe 10? Maybe 10? Maybe more, depending on, your luck. Sure, it's up to you to decide whether you think 10 hours or 15 hours for $15 is worth it. Whether that's value for money for you, depending on how long, you played Night Reign, the base game. Obviously, would I say a new person should just get all of it? I would say, no, you just play the base game and check it out. And then if you want to, more, then you play DLC. Matchmaking's been really good. One of the things that's been really strong has been I always found matches quickly. I have had people leave if things are going badly, but it's pretty rare. Honestly, people just keep going. And, they always think they can salvage it, which they can a little bit, but with the Dreadlord, you need something more than just a good run. You need good team synergy and people who are doing big damage. And just, multiple people doing good damage, and, so just good players as always. And there's always plenty of good players in Souls-like games. Always! Because they're still playing. Yeah. I just try not to be the bad player. And then sometimes I do lots of damage and do too much damage and draw the boss aggro and get myself killed, but it's fun. Alright, so what do you think of the Elden Ring Night Reign DLC? Did you also enjoy it, but found it frustrating at times to get to learn the new map and then just trying to get that good perfect combination of random people online to work together to beat the Dreadlord? Or did you just, first try it, knock it out in 2 hours and just walk away and be like, oh, that wasn't very good? It's like, come on. Yeah, I mean, like, Another Crab's Treasure for me was really, really easy. I absolutely obliterated that game. That was painfully easy because you get a really good combination and you beat the lobster, which is actually a tough fight, and then suddenly you get this massive upgrade where you can just spam your special claw fist thing and just wipe everything out in the entire game. So yeah, sometimes if you find a way to dominate, you can make a Souls-like game feel a bit easier than it should. But I feel like Night Reign is always, balanced around the 3 players. Of course, solo is different, but I always, I like playing games with randoms and letting that variability be the joy when things go well, and when they don't, then it's, interesting. Yeah, but that's me, FrostyFire10. My thoughts on Elden Ring Night Reign DLC. Tell me yours in the comments. And, honestly, I recommend it. If you enjoyed Night Reign, if you got your 40 hours and you want another 15, unless you're better than that, unless you're, 10 hours. And, if you want to see how much I struggled, I do the streams on my channel, but it's a bit of it can be a bit hard times to watch. And there's good times too, but it can be a bit brutal. Alright, catch you later. Bye-bye.